Hello, everyone. Sorry for the delay. This was a not going live. One second. We're hearing the Instagram right now. I think that's a little bit of an echo. So I one second, guys. Okay, I think we have the echoing stopping. This is the whole fun of doing live. Okay, I am sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on. One second. Okay, testing, guys. Okay, I think we're okay. I think this was YouTube. I think YouTube was playing on my screen. I'm hearing it. So again, I actually haven't had that happen to me, and I've done quite a few videos. So thank you for bearing with me. As we were just doing our little show and not realizing that the button decided to go live, I realized that we had to do with this again. So one, thank you guys for joining me on a Wednesday. We usually do this on a Thursday to keep it consistent, giving you some updates. Before I bring FrontLobby on, I just wanted to give you guys some updates regarding what I've been doing. First and foremost, I want to thank Gary Hilbert for having me on his podcast yesterday. It is going to be shared on in December or January. We talked a lot, different situations and issues that are happening with the housing industry, recommendations that obviously I have been trying to push to our elected officials. And this is going to be some really valuable information that I think landlords and property managers and realtors should know before they start continuing to invest in Ontario. So once I do have that live and that recording, we're definitely going to make sure that it's on all of the channels. So thank you, Gary, for having me on the podcast, and also giving me the mug. So we definitely have, the support of Gary and his team there is doing whatever they can to help us with the advocacy efforts, and which is great. Number two, I have been accepted onto the Affordable Housing Reserve Working Group for the City of Cambridge, and I would encourage you guys to do the same. Connect with your elected officials at the municipal level and get them to inform you of what kind of committees, especially for housing, that you can get on. As you know, with Toronto, they have done their renovation bylaw. Hamilton has done it. Ottawa has done it. Why they're doing it, we're not quite too sure. Why hasn't the Ontario government stepped in and said, hey, this is not your jurisdiction? We're not too sure either. This is just something that is just not quite, a scope of them interfering with something that is already being done at the Landlord and Tenant Board. And we would encourage our elected officials to step in and also stop these renovictions, because it's going to be very damaging, not only to the investors, but especially for the tenants. And I have also been accepted onto the Landlord and Tenant Water Billing Task Force. If you guys know me for all these years, this is where I have been. This is why I started advocating. I started advocating because we had the city of Cambridge making landlords responsible for their tenants' delinquent utility bills. And we started that in 2010. 2015 is when it fully came into force, in which now after almost like 15 years, is that you're starting to see that trickle effect. You're starting to see the issues of how it's impacting the landlords, impacting the supply, and of course impacting tenants and resulting into them being evicted for their water bill. or being reported to their water bill. So I do appreciate the Cambridge Council for recognizing that there's something that they can do at a municipal level to keep people housed, keeping them protected. And this is a policy that obviously is dear to my heart. And I do appreciate being on this committee. And I would encourage everyone to, start that conversation with your elected officials at the municipal level to bring this water billing back into your city. And speaking of, reporting debts and what's happening, I have brought to you the president of FrontLobby as well as the COO. We have a lot of questions that are, in the group. We have it, people messaging me and calling me. And I'm like, the last time we did this, I think when we just started finding out about rent reporting, and I had Zach Killam, who is the co-founder, and the founder on the call, really giving you guys everything that you needed to know about rent reporting, and things have evolved since then. So we definitely now have brought, the big guys behind the screen so that you can get to know how you can ask them the questions that has been burning, and they're prepared, and I'm prepared too, because I have some questions for them as well. So help me welcome Steve Harmon. He is the president of FrontLobby, as well as the COO, Grant Burwash. Thank you guys so much for joining me this evening.
Hi, Kayla. Very happy to be here.
Sorry for the mix-up in the.
So before we go further, I think we are live on YouTube. I don't think we're live on Facebook.
Facebook would be my personal account.
Okay. All right.
So if anyone is, if you guys are in the group, it's more, go over to the Ontario Landlords Watch YouTube channel.
Great.
And then I'm seeing a lot of comments that can come in through there versus what Facebook is, but I do have someone watching. So if you have a Facebook question, or just jump over to the Ontario Landlords Watch YouTube channel and get your questions in there.
Great. Well, Kayla, thanks very much for hosting this tonight. It's a pleasure to be here with you. We're obviously looking forward to hearing questions from the landlord community and hearing questions from you as well. I did get the opportunity to attend your conference last year, and it was a pleasure to meet so many landlords in the Cambridge area at the time. Looking forward to it. I know we're skipping a year this year, but I'm looking forward to it again next year, and hopefully there might be some familiar faces on here tonight as well.
Oh, of course. And that was like, I love it. They suck the life right out of me, but I love the themes. I love the dinner. I love the prizes. I feel like Ellen DeGeneres giving out prizes there. It's like, you get a prize and you get a prize. Like it is fun. And I do miss it this year, but our hall is going underneath the renovation. So as soon as we can get like that comfort zone again, we'll make sure that we bring everybody together for a big party, especially if the government is introducing the cutting red tape and billing Ontario. But hey guys, like, let's be real. We don't have to wait until the Landlord and Tenant Board introduces the option for us to report those orders to the credit bureaus. We can do that today. We can do it today with FrontLobby.
We are doing it today.
Yeah, we are doing it today. We've been doing it for a while. Like, this is where it's like it's a little bit slow to the game, I think, for some people. And this is I want people to feel comfortable reporting their rent payments. I want them to feel that it's a tool that's in your toolbox. It gives you that justice feel, that you are getting justice back by able to say, hey, tenant, you haven't paid your rent. You either you're making an agreement with me to leave, or, I'm going to report you, or, you're trying to attract good tenants to you and saying, hey, I can report to be able to promote you and build your credit and your tenancy record at the same time. Like, let's do this. But Steve, How did you get into FrontLobby? Tell everyone.
Well, I'm a relative newcomer, I guess. I'm in year 2 here at FrontLobby, but as the president, I have known Zach Killam, the founder, who you referenced earlier, for many years, more than a decade, and so participated in some early discussions as he was embarking on his journey as a landlord. And I've watched the evolution of FrontLobby since the inception, basically, and so was thrilled that I could join. And sort of take some of the learnings that I've had in other small businesses and startups in the technology world and bring them to bear here as well. And it's been great to meet so many small landlords across Ontario and other places, and to understand what the challenges within the industry and how we can help to mitigate some of those challenges. So happy to be here and happy to share some information about FrontLobby.
That's great. Grant. You're the man who, anytime I have a question from you guys and I don't know it, this guy is here for me and he's always answering them for me. So always to make sure that you guys get the answers as quick as I possibly can, because as I advocate for this housing industry, we advocate for tools like this. We advocate for the ability to make these tenants accountable. And I can tell you, it has been a game changer. And I've always called it a game changer because it is something that every landlord and property manager needs. And this is why we have Grant now coming on to be able to tell us how he got involved with FrontLobby.
Yeah, I'm trying to think when I first met you, Kayla. I mean, I've been involved for several years, going on 5 years now. So since when we launched FrontLobby, and we identified you pretty early. You were a very loud voice, continued to kind of work within the housing industry and had very similar missions to us. So it's been really fun to kind of work together and see how your advocacy and everything has grown over the past couple of years as we built this business. I met Zach actually at a mutual friend's house. I was living in Toronto at the time.
Hold on, Grant. Hold on. You're sounding like someone just put you in a blender.
Oh.
Are you hearing that to Steve?
I am, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. How you doing there, Grant? You got your internet back?
Yeah, how's this sound now? Okay.
Okay. How about you log out, log back in again, and me and Steve will keep it going. If you
Sounds
can hear
good.
us. There we go. We got to do this live. I don't like the recording stuff. I got 4 kids. Like you got to live on the edge. So Grant will be back with us. But in the meantime, Steve, what was, FrontLobby, what gaps in the rental housing market are like, was FrontLobby trying to achieve when it first came to Canada? Because it was very new. And when it first came new, we had so many people like, it's illegal, you can't do that, it's a scam. And then they started to loosen up when Justin Trudeau talked about rent reporting.
Well, and that was only very recently, as you know, Kayla. I mean, the reality is when FrontLobby introduced rent reporting in Canada, most people didn't know what that term meant, right? Obviously, people are familiar with credit scores and credit reporting because mortgages have been reported, credit cards, car loans, all kinds of other things have been reported for years and decades even. But why was it that renters who, ultimately are spending probably more money on their rent than anything else, are not receiving benefit for that? And why weren't landlords being protected by the fact that they could report to the credit bureaus, right? So, I wasn't there from day one. I can really let Grant talk a little bit about the vision behind starting the business. But at the end of the day, rent reporting it's almost like a basic right in our society in so many different areas now, both to protect investments, but also to help build credit and create financial freedom. And so that gap was obvious to Zach when he started the company, and that's where FrontLobby really stepped in and started to move that forward.
That is awesome. And you know what? And this is where, when you started to see the impact in the community and how I started using FrontLobby when I was doing my tenant screening, and you would like, oh, how many places have you seen? And where do you guys work? And, how have you guys been looking long? And are you interested? Here's an application. And then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, I do monthly rent reporting. Like, it really has improved my abilities to, take me to the next level and do that tenant screening by just knowing that I have that tool to offer these tenants. And I've used it for our tenants to report their good payment history. And I love how they tell me how it's gone up for them and what it's done and how it improved them. So, this is why I think a lot of our landlords are a little skeptical. And yes, there's like a cost to report debt, or there's a cost for, a premium membership, or it's free, at, the premium membership. But we want to get into that so you guys can have that idea. Now, I want to jump in. I put this up here right now. We had Joe, he comes on and he says that we have been using FrontLobby and it's great for his property management company. And, this is what it is appealing, not only for property managers to know that they can do their clients justice by knowing that they have that tool that they offer. And it also encourages landlords to want to team up with property managers who do offer this type of service. So Joe, thanks so much. And then Joe came on and said, we have find the tenants that are always paid a few days late, and they're now on time. Grant, what are you going to say about that?
That's awesome. I mean, that's the whole point of it, right? There's several different tools and we'll talk through some of it, but sometimes it's just providing that little extra nudge or accountability or communication. And the platform helps provide all of those. And when you can start to bring that into it, I think they can really help. So it's great to hear.
Now, Steve, can you tell us about how the rent reporting system works? Because a lot of people are like, hey, it's going to be a lot of time. I don't have time for this. Like, how is the rent reporting going to work to bring that comfortability that it's not going to be time consuming to their business?
Sure. Like anything, there's a little bit of setup involved, right? You do have to create an account on the platform. You have to put in you have to create a lease record. So you have to put in some tenant information and some information about your property and how much rent is paid each month. The reality is most tenants pay their rent every month. It's, we're here to reward those ones, but also we're here to hold those accountable that don't. And those, again, are few and far between, but they can cause a tremendous amount of pain and suffering. And so it's important to cover both cases, right? So create a lease record on the platform. We'll assume that your rent is paid unless you come in and tell us that there's a balance owing. So we'll report the rent is paid on time every month. You don't have to do anything. It's hands off unless there's a problem. If you have a delinquency, then come in and document that delinquency included in your payment history. And then we can start reporting the debt to the bureaus as well. So it's a little bit of setup, Kayla, and then it's hands off, and as long as things are going well, and when they're not, obviously you want to jump in and report accordingly.
Now, we have a landlord that has, it's obviously FrontLobby is made for big ones and small ones, but if we have a big landlord that does have quite a few tenants that they want to offload their information to, is there a system that FrontLobby can assist and help them create these tenancy lease records so that it's a little bit easier for them to upload their tenants' information?
Yeah, Grant can speak to that.
Yeah.
He helps in that capacity quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, we have a couple options. So if you're using a separate property management tool, you can usually export the data and we can help import it through an Excel, or we do have different APIs that can connect directly with a different tool that you're offering. So typically what we'd say, if you've got over 25 doors and you want help with some sort of Excel template to onboard it, that's great. And if you're using a system, just reach out to our team and we're happy to help you get started. And as Steve said, even if you got a few hundred doors, it's usually only a few minutes a month because you're only having to update when there is a debt. So, and someone moves in or moves out. So there's minimal work and we can help support you on an ongoing basis.
That's awesome. Now, Grant, what I already know these answers, guys. I want you to hear from these. So I'm like, get your questions in the chat there. If I am not seeing it on Facebook, I'm going to try to keep everybody on here. I don't know if I'm going to try to get like the YouTube. If any of you guys are watching, if you could do me a favor and just take that YouTube channel link right now and put it in the chat, because I'm not even too sure if people are seeing it from my Facebook, but get over to the YouTube and be able to put that in there. So get your questions so we can make sure we answer your questions, because I know that I just want to be able to make sure that the questions that I get on a regular are being answered by Grant and Steve so that you guys can have a better understanding. Now, Grant, the tools that are inside of FrontLobby. So when you are inside of FrontLobby's platform, it's not just the credit checks. It's not just the rent reporting. Like, tell us some of the features that I think are going to be a very much of a benefit to the landlords to keep tenants accountable, but also, being able to give them the little bit of help that they need to make sure that their payments are made on time.
Yeah, of course. I mean, our system is built to be balanced. So there's benefits, of course, for you as a housing provider, but also your tenants. I mean, the most obvious one is the reporting of rental data. So this can be both on time as well as delinquencies for those current tenants. And then you also have the ability to report those former tenants. Mm-hmm. The reporting of rental data has been used in a plethora of other industries. Like, it's commonplace and it's been proven to help ensure that payments are made on time. And we all know, most of us here would own properties, I would assume, like, you understand the importance of building credit. And so from the tenant standpoint, the ability to actually use their payments to build their credit is a huge financial benefit to them. Mm-hmm. The second thing that I actually find incredibly valuable from all our conversations that rarely gets talked about are actually our automated notifications. So these are things like rent reminders, late payment notices, these things that you can choose to utilize or not, it's up to you, but they'll just automatically go out and help inform the tenant. And what we find in those instances is it drives positive and proactive conversations between you and your tenant. So if someone's going to be a couple days late or they're having some challenges, they're more likely to reach out to you because you're using tools in FrontLobby to have that conversation. Say, hey, Kayla, I get back on Tuesday, I'll have the check for you, or payments coming through at this time. And really, that's what you want as a housing provider. So,
Yep.
I mean, those two things are critical. Of course, everyone on this call should know that the importance of screening, and we do have tools that help with that. But the rent reporting and reminders are kind of the two things that I'd want to highlight from that standpoint, is really helping you maintain your cash flow so you can continue to be a housing provider.
And Steve, that brings me into my next question for you. We have credit checks and we have background checks. What are we actually seeing, and what kind of data are the landlords expecting when they do their credit checks with FrontLobby? And also for the viewers, talk about that price for the free basic member, and then obviously a premium membership, so that they can have an idea.
Yeah, sure. Obviously, we have a pretty comprehensive set of credit and background check that you can go through on the platform. Typically, the most popular is the bundle, where everything comes together. But let's start with the credit check. Obviously, everybody knows about credit score, which is an important consideration. But there are a lot more things in a credit check that are important to evaluate as well. And so the FrontLobby credit check is a long form credit check. It includes current past home addresses, employment information. There's usually a section of what's called trade lines, and trade lines basically are any credit that has been issued to the applicant. So those could be things like car loans, credit cards, bank loans, even phone plans as well. And these, all have information pertaining to each one of the trade lines. Things like date open, the current status of the trade line, the high credit amount that's been there, if there's been any late payments or any outstanding balances that are owing. The FrontLobby rent reporting is a trade line as well. It's FL rent on an Equifax credit report. So that similarly shows the dates. It shows the amounts of payment for current and former rent that has been paid as well, that's been reported to the bureaus. After the trade lines, there's a collection section. If the applicant has ever been had anything sent to collections, it will show up in the collections section. Similarly, with some pertinent data about the amounts and timeframes. Collections do stay on the credit report for 6 years in Canada, so it can have quite a history there. After the collection section, if there's ever been a bankruptcy, that will be listed next as well. Yep. Bankruptcies, and then finally, any credit inquiries against that particular applicant as well will be listed on the credit report. So that's the first piece, is the credit report. You then have a background check, and a background check, again, similarly has residence information, employment information, role, duration of employment, that kind of thing. But I think most importantly, it has a public scan and a criminal record scan as well. And a public scan is it's quite comprehensive. It's international. It taps into somewhere around 100,000 public databases globally. It looks at fraud records, any sex offender registries, adverse media records. The criminal scan is more local to Canada, so looking through public RCMP databases and provincial databases. Most of the time, those scans are going to come back with no result, which is what you really want. There are times where you might get what they consider to be a partial match or a likely match, and that isn't a certainty that the individual that you're screening has shown up in those databases, but somebody with that name has, and so it does then warrant you to do some further inquiries. In our bundle also, there is a report from the Landlord Credit Bureau if a suitable match exists from the LCB as well. Yep. And that provides verified tenant records from previous landlords and previous housing experiences with rental payment history there as well. And it's quite a comprehensive package. For premium members, Kayla, you asked about pricing. For premium members, it's $18.99. And for basic free members, it's $24.99.
And guys, it's a tax write-off. Like, do it.
Yeah, it's
how many landlords that I talk to, and I'm like, we're talking about the situation that they're going through, and I would ask, what was their credit before they moved in? What was like, and they're like, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. And I don't know if it's like they didn't do it because they didn't know how to do it. They didn't know where to do it, how they can do their credit checks. Sometimes back in the day, even when I started, is that you actually had to be a big landlord to do credit checks. And I think that's the difference now between now is about bringing that awareness that you can do credit checks and you can do it no matter if you're big or small or where it is. And that's why it's very important to have your application. So if anyone's looking for a application for to screen their tenants, send me an email at olwlandlords@gmail.com. You're going to take that information that the tenants are filling out with their application, and you're now going to bring that and balance it out with the FrontLobby credit checks and background checks to make sure, because I know that we just had Jordan group property management and sales doesn't show the prior address, and that is something that is crucial, especially when you know tenants are lying about their previous reference. So this is a way for you to be able to balance out, oh, okay, this is where the tenant is potentially lying, and it's these red flags that we got to pay attention to. The tenants are getting very smart and how to fraudulent their stuff. So please, I talk about this on a regular basis. Do not accept a credit check from the tenant. Register, do it as a free membership or a premium member. Just please do your credit checks. It can save you a world of problems that are out there.
Well, and Kayla, maybe to add, like, so first of all, the question, does it show prior addresses? So actually all three of them do show prior addresses. Credit reports do, background checks do, and if there is an LCB record, that will as well. But what I was going to add, Kayla, is, you can also, in our platform, you can choose to pay for the credit report yourself, or you can send it to the applicant to fill in, provide their consent, and pay for it. So at the end of the day, it can cost you nothing if you do it, if you send it to the applicant. They don't get to see it. They don't get to touch it, so they can't mess with it. It comes directly back to you into your account at FrontLobby. And that's at zero cost to you. So, again, if price is a consideration, which I think at, even at $24.99, it's a great insurance policy to make sure you've got the right tenant. It's so critical. But at the end of the day, if you want the applicant to pay for it, you can do it that way as well.
The bonus. Now we had Cheryl who wants it. We're getting a little off topic, but I want the casual. I want the casual conversations. Who wants to take that question, guys?
Yeah, I can jump on it. The answer is no. So right now, the information that Steve shared is searching public databases. The credit, of course, is information that's coming directly from a credit bureau, so whether that's Landlord Credit Bureau or Equifax or the the credit bureau where it's coming from. So LTB orders are separate. So the best place to go right now, there are platforms, ways you can do that. You can go search Canly or the LTB to find that information, but you're not going to have that's pulled into a traditional credit check or a background check. It's separate data.
Not yet, guys. Not yet. We're pushing it. We're pushing it now.
Yeah, we are investigating the possibility of bringing it in, but.
Yeah, it's a lot for the landlord and tenant board to take in, like knowing that you have an order, but then the tenants have to pay. So they need to go through a third party if they want to see that come out and be rolled out. But it's about the accountability. And I think a lot of it's about being proactive and knowing that you're telling the tenants that you do this on a monthly basis, letting the tenants know what's going to happen if they do default. And it's honestly like a bargaining tool that most landlords can also utilize. Now, the question that I also get on a regular basis is that, too bad I didn't know about FrontLobby. I just had a guy do this to me 3 years ago. So how far back can we go to report a former tenant?
In Canada, it's 6 years, and in the US, it's 7. So that's established by the credit bureaus for the duration of or history of data that they can accept. So if you have an individual that's moved out in the past 6 years within Canada that owes you a debt, you can start reporting on that. And similar applies when you're looking at a tenant that's currently in your property. You don't have to start reporting at the beginning of a tenancy. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about consent and other aspects, but you can start reporting kind of whenever you find out about FrontLobby. You can bring it into your fold as far as a tool that's on your belt as a housing provider. So former tenant, 6 years in Canada, 7 years in the US, enter the debt, and you can start reporting.
So our landlords who are ready to pack their bags and get out of Ontario and now are exploring the US, don't worry. FrontLobby is following you there too. So don't worry. You definitely have the option to be utilizing both platforms in the US and in Canada. Thanks so much, Grant, for answering that. Another question that I have, you guys can flip a coin. Damages. Can we report damages to FrontLobby?
Well, the short answer is no, except under certain circumstances. So you always want to start reporting as soon as you can, right? We know from the data that the sooner you report a debt, the more likely you are to recover it, right? So you don't want to wait. And when you're reporting initially, you can report rent. And if you have utilities covered in the lease as well, you can report those as well. You can't report damages until you have an order. So if you do have an order, you can report damages. But the important thing is don't wait until you have that order to start reporting. Report sooner, and that because you can always go in and adjust the balance. If an order comes in, you can then add damages, you can add legal costs. There are a number of things. Anything that can be included in a court order, you can claim, but don't wait for the LTB order in order for that to happen. Start reporting as soon as you can, and then modify your reporting if you get an order that has additional costs associated.
So we don't need the consent to report the debt, guys, for the water or for the utility of like the water utilities. I would say hydro in there too, if you have that contract in between the tenant, but also the rent. So it's no consent needed. You do need the order to report the damages, and you do need the tenant's consent to report good payment history. So if you have that tenant that wants to grow, they're going to be able to give that consent through the FrontLobby platform. You just come in there, create that lease, put their information in, they'll get notified, and they can give consent through the system. How did I do, guys? Did I do pretty good?
Well, good. Yeah. But even better, put the consent clause as an addendum in your lease before they even sign it. So then you don't even have to you don't have to do anything further. Just the language is on the FrontLobby website. It's free for cut and paste. It's been vetted by legal. Put that as an addendum in your leases, and you can advertise that you report rent from day one.
So put this in here for you guys now for the FrontLobby website. You got the lease addendums that are in there. And again, you can email me. I put that in the chat as well so that you can email me and I'll give you the application, and also make sure that you have the clause in there as well. I love it as his own little page, and I have the tenants sign off on it.
Totally. Have it separate.
It
talk about it.
Seriousness.
It's way better that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I'll add to that, though, when you're talking about consent, because we get this question all the time, is like, you can use the platform and a lot of the protections are built in. So if the tenant provides consent in the platform, those on-time payments are getting reported. If you enter debt, that's automatically going to get reported. So you don't have to really worry about that aspect. The safety is built within the platform. Enter the data, turn on reporting, make sure it's accurate and update it on a monthly basis. And then you can look in the activity tracker to see actually what's getting reported and kind of follow along as far as the emails and the reporting that's actually occurred. So like, you don't need to be afraid to sign up. If you have questions, of course, our team can help you. But as far as the compliance and worrying about consent, just get it going. And the biggest thing, consent isn't required to recover a debt. Like it's not required. So you can start reporting.
And that's what I walked into an event one time, and this one landlord came up to me. He's like, Kayla, he's like, thank you so much. He's like, I reported the utility. He's like, I reported the utility. I got paid for the utility just by being reported. And the emails that went out to the tenants resulted in that payment. So you got to be able to understand that you're going to have tenants, guys, that are not going to care about their credit, probably because you didn't check their credit in the beginning and they don't care. It's already been damaged. But what you're doing, you're helping your community. You're helping your other landlords and property managers to make sure that they are not making the same mistakes. And you're going to be able to have that debt being shown on their credit history as a trade line. And that's the key, to know that you are being able to save your other landlords. Or you're going to have the tenants who think that they can get away with it and that you're not going to go to small claims court. But you don't have to go to small claims court in order to have that debt impacting these tenants' credit. So please look into, I'll have Ian, he's on the call right now. We're going to put like a link to book a call with Ian. He's going to be able to help you make that decision. Are you going to be a premium member? Are you going to be a free basic member? And just knowing what product is certain that's going to fit you based on the size of a landlord that you are. Now, the question that we would always get when it comes down to a tenant wanting to dispute a claim. So if a landlord had put something in there, how are we protecting the tenants on that side of things?
Yeah. So first and foremost, information cannot be reported anonymously. So there are a lot of protections, and we went through with the privacy commissioners. We're the first in Canada to do this. So we built the platform in order to be compliant with the legislation. When you talk about disputes, it is an individual's right to dispute any information that they believe is inaccurate on a credit report. Same way you look and you say, oh, I don't have a TELUS account, and so you phone Equifax and you can dispute that information. Same thing exists in the rental industry. Yeah. But it's important to know that someone can't just dispute that information and it goes away. There's a set process. So the tenant can file the dispute with Equifax or with ourselves directly. And what we would do is investigate. So what we're looking for is we contact the housing provider, ask for any clarification, look for things like the lease, a breakdown of how the rent was calculated or the debt was calculated, and just confirm that all that information is accurate. Then we go back to the tenant and ask for proof of payment. So if they say, hey, I actually paid August, great. Show us that you paid August, and we can update any information that's been inaccurate. In most instances, an individual disputes an information and it just stays the same. If something's been reported inaccurately, let's say debts were added from some sort of damages that shouldn't have been added, of course, those can be updated and or removed. So then we ensure that information is there. So there's protections on both sides. One for you as a housing provider, that you ensure that that accurate data that you've been reported remains on the credit file to inform future creditors, but also on the tenant side that ensures that only accurate information is on the credit file. And if something is amiss, we have ways to correct that.
And how does Landlord Credit Bureau come in the mix? What is the type of data that when we pull our credit reports and we do get the tenancy record coming from Landlord Credit Bureau, what can our landlords expect from that tenancy record that's being shared?
Yeah, you'll get the tenant's name, the rental address related to the information that's reported. You're going to get the monthly rental amount, and then a breakdown every single month of whether rent was paid or the total outstanding debt. The other great benefit is you'll actually get the name and the email address of the verified housing provider that reported that information. So as Kayla, I've heard you say many times, a lot of reference calls are just kind of bogus right now. You get somebody's brother or cousin or whatever it is. But this is actually going to be a way that you could connect with that housing provider that had reported this information and actually housed that tenant in the past. And whether you want to communicate with them or not is, of course, up to you. But it kind of provides that transparency and accountability that we've always been trying to build, to say, great, Steve rented from Kayla. I can see this. Steve's a great tenant. He's paid on time. And I know that Kayla is a real person and actually reported that information. And so it brings this financial history record that has never existed in the rental industry finally into the light so people can see it. It's awesome.
I know how many times that the landlords get stuck into that. Oh, I got the cousins and, I thought it was a real landlord. Like I even talk to landlords and say, hey, when you're talking to those references as well, like I love the fact that we can connect, we know that the landlord is verified through Landlord Credit Bureau, but when we're also now trying to call those references, it's almost like getting into that landlord lingo and talking about the landlord and tenant board, what's your feel in the market, and you can kind of see like you're making them uncomfortable, and that's when you start to understand that you may not be getting the right type of persons. So that's another thing that the landlords need. They need to know that they're getting references from verified landlords and that the tenants are not abusing this. And it sucks. Like it really does. Like it sucks that good tenants are paying for bad tenants. Right. And I think this is why I love FrontLobby and how we can actually reward our good tenants. What's the benefit from our tenants taking advantage of this product and being able to benefit to grow their credit? Like what else can it do for them by having their rent reported?
Well, Kayla, I mean, like everything that good credit does, right? So it can mean getting a better limit on a line of credit or a credit card. It could mean getting a lower interest rate on your car loan. It could mean potentially qualifying for a mortgage someday as well, so that you can, buy your first house with a basement apartment, that you become a landlord yourself, right? Like the amount of money that people spend on rent that goes unreported and has zero impact on their credit score is kind of tragic, to be honest, because it's the biggest check they write every month. it has the ability to move the needle quite substantially on their credit score relative to a phone bill or a credit card payment. So, you know, it creates financial inclusion. And when we did the study with Equifax a couple of years ago, there was a lot of people who didn't have a single trade line on their credit report before they started reporting their their on-time monthly rent payments to FrontLobby. So it was the first way that they were able to build credit. So if you're a young person entering the workforce, or if you're a newcomer new to Canada and you have no credit history here, you're probably going to be a renter as well. And so this is the first opportunity to start building credit and improve your financial well-being.
Now, Grant, how would you address the concern from landlords who would be about the cost of using FrontLobby? Because I get people who, you know, every dollar counts. They're already dealing with a difficult tenant that didn't make their payment on time. How do you overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it goes back to that old adage that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So we talked earlier on about, you know, the cost of a credit check, $15, $25 to get that information to make an informed decision about the risk that you're putting out with a tenant. You know, that's kind of an understood aspect. Rent reporting is really new, and we deal with this constantly around the education and the value of it. But the reality is, reporting that rental data every single month, both positive and negative, provides you with that added assurance that you're most likely to get those payments on time every single month. A lot of the independent housing providers that would be on this call, you can't miss a monthly rental payment, a monthly mortgage payment, which means someone can't miss a rental payment. Otherwise, you're put in kind of some financial duress. And so it's a cheap way that for under $20 a month, you can report up to 20 current leases. That's a pretty cheap insurance policy to help ensure that those rents are paid on time. Of course, it's not guaranteed, but it's a really powerful tool that's been adopted across a plethora of other industries that you can adopt as a tool to help make sure that you can remain a housing provider and get the returns that you want.
Of course, like when we pay $186 to the landlord and tenant board, and we don't even get the service that we pay for. So, you know, this is just a drop in the bucket, knowing that you're reporting 20 current leases. So if you have 5 people on one lease, that's still one lease, guys. So it's just about being proactive in your monthly rent reporting and knowing that you're setting it. Everyone's being paid on time and in full. They're getting those rent reminder emails. As you can see, Joe on the call, he talked about how some of them would pay late. Now they're paying on time. You know, do you really want to have to go through the landlord and tenant board? Or can we really deal with the biggest issue that landlords face is unpaid rent or late payments? And I think that's where FrontLobby is going to be able to come in for you guys and protect you, because this is something that you can't expect our elected officials to do what is needing to be done. There's going to be a lot of pushback. It's very slow. We now have the opportunity to do monthly, to report current payments, good and negative. We can report former tenants going back 6 years in Canada, 7 years in the States. We have the option, no matter if you're big or small, to do credit checks that are going to give you everything, probably except their blood type. Does it give your blood type, Steve? No.
No blood types. No.
Not yet. What about criminal records? You guys ever thinking about, is FrontLobby ever going to be able to offer criminal record checks?
It's something we've looked at. There's a criminal scan, which is obviously not the same thing. I don't know, Kayla, that one of the challenges with criminal records is that you don't get them right away. There's going to be a delay. You have to wait. So not looking for it in the short term.
Now, what would your vision be for the rest of FrontLobby? What do you think, like based on how you would say out of all, let's go back. Out of all the provinces that you guys are in, what is the worst province that is out there for policy?
Well, obviously Ontario is the biggest province. It's also the most challenging for the housing providers. I think that's pretty obvious. There's no other place that is where the board is so famous for delays and problems as Ontario. Right now, Ontario is the epicenter of Canada for a lot of people, so that kind of is par for the course. But also, it has the most challenging housing ecosystem for sure.
And this is where, like, when you see TikTok videos left, right, and center, and these investors are on there and they're like, hey, first tip, invest in a investor friendly province. Ontario is not it. That guy has been famous for that, and I think that's what when I speak to elected officials, I'm like, listen, like, we have such a bad brand on Ontario right now that we have to, do some changes to really encourage our landlords to stay, because they're gone. Like, and I think based on the capital gains tax, like, a lot of people probably would sell, all of their properties right now, but with the capital gains tax, they're taking a slow approach to leaving.
Well, I mean, but the reality is, look, there are more opportunities in Ontario than anywhere else in Canada too, right? We have by far the largest rental housing community in the country, and as a landlord, it may not be your full-time job. If you have 1 or 2 or 3 units, it may be something you're doing on the side. And in those instances, it is good to be physically close to your property. So, there are lots of reasons to continue to be a landlord in Ontario for sure. The grass does look greener in some other pastures. I would agree. But at the same time, if you can't get to your building to deal with issues, and you have to hire a property manager to do that for you, then there's a whole other set of circumstances that you're dealing with. So Ontario is challenging. If you want to move to British Columbia, it's going to be easier, but there's lots of good work to be done in Ontario as well.
Thanks, Joe. See, this is the stuff, like, we got to share. This is stuff we share in our group. So if you're watching on YouTube and you're not into the Ontario Landlords Watch group, definitely send a request and tell us where you've seen us, except the guy that says that we shouldn't be getting into housing, whoever you are on this chat. We had a question with, I believe it was Sherry. She talked about, are we allowed to ask tenants to pay for it? And I know in Manitoba, they don't like you asking the tenants to pay for it. I know in Ontario, we definitely can. So if you have a tenant you have a credit check that you want the tenant to, in Ontario, definitely you're good. I am going to have Donna Monkhouse on December 12th at 7:00. We are going to be talking about Alberta. So all the rules and regulations and policies. So definitely tune into that one so that we can start learning from different provinces, because we do want to learn what other provinces are doing and try to adapt that into the Ontario government. So hopefully that works.
You're referencing, can we ask them to pay for credit checks and background checks, correct?
Yeah, that was Sherry.
I mean, the answer is yes. You can ask them all across the country. You can ask them.
Manitoba, I think they had a policy. We'll have to get Jordan. There was another guy named.
I'm
Jordan.
not a paralegal, but I believe in Manitoba you can also ask.
You know what, Sherry? Don't worry. We're gonna get this, and I know you messaged me earlier tonight, so I'll make sure that we do that. What is this? It sounds like the service of FrontLobby are for large landlords. Are the revenue for smaller landlords report paid and unpaid rent?
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of the platform. It is really designed for small landlords. A lot of individuals have 1, 2, 3 units on the platform, and it can scale all the way up to if you have thousands. So yes, regardless of the number of units, you can use our platform. The other benefit is you don't actually have to have the tenants pay rent through us. So regardless of how you're collecting rent, whether they're dropping out cash, checks, or paying in e-transfer, whatever it is, you can still report the rental data through us. So however big you are, however small you are, you can use the platform. Yeah,
like I would echo that. The majority of the landlords on our platform are actually small by a long shot. The average size is 3 or 4 units. So we are designed for small landlords. We can accommodate large landlords, but our focus has always been small landlords.
There we go. So we have that established. A lot of information. We have a lot of different products and services that are out there. So it is important to kind of know that no matter if you're big, you're small, from doing your credit checks to rent reporting, is it legal? If it's not legal, it's totally legal, totally encouraged. And as landlords who are doing their tenant screening, we want you to report these people's debt. And I think a lot of people are concerned about just the professional tenants who are going to potentially damage their unit if they report them while they're inside of the unit. What would you tell them, Grant?
Well, The political answer is you know your situation better than anybody. And when I say this, like as someone that's been a tenant, been a landlord, you have to understand your situation. And so like, if you don't feel safe by reporting it, of course, abide by that. That being said, that reporting the rental data is a really good way to ensure there's some accountability to it. So there can be threats and there can be aspects, but like, if you don't do anything, the likelihood of them paying is pretty slim, right? If they're threatening to do certain things. So having the leverage of actually putting that data on their credit check, one, it helps you get paid, but really importantly, it helps inform the next landlord that they're trying to go to that there's a history of debt and delinquency. And for the small independents within Ontario, within Canada, it's like being a landlord is really a community. We have to rely on each other to build the accountability into the system.
Yeah.
If Kayla's got a tenant that's given her challenge and she has a way of letting me know, I want to know that information when I'm looking at the applicant, because that helps us create this accountable, transparent, and frankly, sustainable housing industry. So then independent housing providers can continue to exist. So don't put yourself in a dangerous situation. There's legal help out there and things that you should get. The LTB, of course, has resources, but really reporting that debt through us is just another tool that you can provide to make sure you have the leverage so that you can hopefully get paid.
And this is where when landlords would call me and thinking that a tenant can damage the unit, and when the tenant leaves, you have to serve them at their current address, or you have to apply to the landlord and tenant board to ask permission to serve the tenants with alternative method. So always when you are doing your lease signing with your tenant, I always like to get them to fill out that consent by email form on the landlord and tenant board website. That kind of gives me that proof in the pudding to give to the landlord and tenant board, just in case my tenant did take off and I don't know where their current address is. Now it's about saying, I got this signed in the beginning of our tenancy to show that if I do, have the permission from the landlord and tenant board to serve my tenant by alternative method, which would be email, because of this consent by email form. This is a way for me to be able to get that order or the application to the tenant and saying, hey, I filed an application against you. This is an opportunity for you to show up. If you don't, then we're going to be able to ask the landlord and tenant board for an order on those damages. So don't feel completely that the tenant is always going to have that power over you. Just know that getting that little consent by email form and asking the landlord and tenant board for permission to serve that alternative method can go a long way. We do need to make sure that we hold these tenants accountable, because these damages are crazy. Like the unpaid rent that I'm hearing lately is absolutely horrible. I've seen landlords who are being extorted just to try to sell their property of $100,000, $30,000. Like, the market is broken, and it's up to us now to bring it back together. And we're bringing it back together with different products and services like FrontLobby. I have taken you guys a lot longer than I'm supposed to. Thank you so much for coming on and answering these questions. This video is going to be on YouTube, so we're going to be able to keep it here. So if there is questions as you're watching the replay, put it in there. We'll make sure that the team of FrontLobby is there to ask your questions. There is a link in the chat where you can book that call with Ian to know what product you're looking for, what is going to suit you as a landlord. And I think he's going to be able to, book you in, get that phone call. I know everyone wants a phone call. So thank you, Ian, for being able to put that link in there. And we can get your questions answered and help you sign up. If it's very easy. But if you are, having some difficulty signing up, don't worry. We can get you on a call and get you signed up and help you get all your tenants onboarded and help you bring that information to your good tenants to let them know what you're going to do and how you're going to report their good payment history and what that looks like. There's more to this platform that you can imagine. So jump over to frontlobby.com, sign up as a free basic member now, explore, look around, see what you're going to be able to do, and check out their marketplace. They have a great marketplace in there with many different great services that are going to help you as a landlord thrive in this crazy, crazy real estate market in Ontario. I'm going to come on back on again and give you some updates of the advocacy efforts that I'm doing. And of course, with the landlord and tenant board, their changes and that bill that's going to be happening. But guys, there is going to be an election coming, and this is our time. And I hope that, we're not quite happy with the Conservatives and the changes that are being made, but I can tell you, on a Liberal and NDP level, it would be absolutely disastrous. So please pay attention to your politics on all levels of government. Is important for all of us to be very intuitive to what's happening, because there is a lot of changes that are happening and we need to be prepared. And always, like our real estate investors would talk about, is having that exit strategy. So making sure you know where the door is and when it is. But right now it's still good. It's great in Ontario. We just need to make sure that we're doing our job and making sure that we're being great landlords, that we're doing our tenant screening, we're doing our tenant checks, and we're reporting our tenants to frontlobby.com. No consent needed. And this is how it's going to be the game changer for our industry. Steve, a little bit of advice. I always ask our guests, like, what kind of advice do you want to give our landlords?
Well, I want to end on a positive note for sure.
Yeah, we're negative, and we're like, it's not right.
I want to end on a positive note, and I think the real advice in terms of from our platform is start early, right? Like, get rental reporting into your rental ads so that you can screen out the bad tenants right away. Get it into your lease clauses so that you don't even have to worry about consent ever. And report all your tenants, report your good tenants. They will pay on time if they see their credit scores going up. And most of your tenants are going to be good tenants. So make sure you're reporting all your tenants. You can report up to 20 leases on a premium membership at FrontLobby. So report all your good tenants. Don't wait until you have a bad experience before you start utilizing the platform. Yep. Because when you pull credit reports, you want to see who also has been a good tenant in the past, not just who's been a bad tenant. You want to see that rental history on their credit reports. So I would say, start early, report everybody that you can on the platform, because most of them are going to be good, and you're going to help them, and you're going to retain them as a result of that. And don't be afraid of the technology. It's easy. We're trying to continue to invest in it, make it easier to use, make it more valuable as time goes on. So appreciate everybody taking the time this evening, and hopefully it was informative.
Thanks so much, Steve. Grant, what do you got to say?
I'd say leverage your community. I mean, we get questions all the time, not just about FrontLobby and its products, but questions that should go to a paralegal, questions that could go to other landlords. And there are a lot of resources, especially nowadays. Platforms like OLW, all the work that you do, Kayla. There's a bunch of other areas where you can go to get free information. And a lot of people on this call, yes, being a housing provider is a business, but it's a very, very part-time business. And so it's probably not something that you've done for 20 or 30 years. Some of you will have, and some of it may be something you're just getting into. So use the groups and communities around you to help get that information. Ask questions, learn from people's mistakes so you don't have to make them again. And then you start to build up your chest of tools and lease clauses and all that sort of stuff. So then you can make sure that you're protected, then you can get back into the community as you go along. But this is one of the incredible communities that I've been involved with in my life. And it's cool to see how it happens, not just on a national level, but like really goes down into the specific jurisdictions and things. So they're out there. Just don't be afraid to throw your hand up and ask the questions, and they'll reach out and give you some help.
That's awesome. That's great. And you know what, guys, we have some exciting stuff happening in January. I've been working on quite a few things. Can't tell you now, but tune in for December 12th. We have Donna Monkhouse from the Landlord Association in Alberta. This is something that's going to just you got to have a drink ready. I think you're going to be drinking on that one. Just if you're not exploring the opportunities of investing in Alberta, you're definitely going to be drinking, just knowing that they have it a lot better than what we do have in Ontario. But it's about the purpose of educating our elected officials to know that it's happening there. Why can't it happen here? So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I want to thank you for your support. There is some provincial events that are going to come up, but I'll give some post into that. Please continue to keep following me on all different type of platforms. We never know, how the algorithm works and how what you're reaching, but it's definitely a very appreciative for your support. And I want to thank the team of FrontLobby for providing this exceptional service that is going to make a difference in the landlords and the property managers and our good tenants that do deserve recognition, and that they should be being rewarded for their good payment history that needs to be recognized, so that we can get them to the next level of being a homeowner or a landlord themselves. So we do represent the good landlords, the good tenants, and the taxpayers. Until December 12th, guys, thank you so much for watching. And please tune in to our next Facebook Live, which will be a lot of entertainment with Donna. Thank you so much.